Hi everyone, I'm Jody Barrows with The Square in a Square. Welcome to our live webinar today on October the 10th of 2021. Now today we're going to do some troubleshooting for the main options of options 1, 3, and 4. It seems like this is something that we need to go over often so that you guys can help learn the vocabulary of the square in a square and help learn how to remove the human element, get more perfection, more speed, more accuracy, and how to use those charts. So today we're going to be working on that. We're going to take a little bit of a break in between our diamond options that we've been learning and kind of go back to the beginning. We always have so many new people joining us, and I think it's good even for those that have been around a while to go in and dig in and learn a little bit more and go a little bit deeper. So the question always is two questions. The question, well, maybe there's three. Anyway, one of the questions is, what size of basic square, so that means center square and strips, what size of basic square do I cut so that I can get a flying goose that is a certain size, or a half square triangle, or any of the options? How do I know what size of square and what size of strips? So we're going to talk about that. The other one is that either my half square triangles are not all the same size, or they're crooked, or my flying geese are not fitting the way that they should, or any of the options. So what the square in a square system does is it helps remove the human element. The human element is, of course, the human doing the cutting, the sewing, and the pressing. So we do all of that human element here in this form of the basic square. And then we come in here and put the ruler on it to trim it up to get all of these wonderful triangle units. So the human element of cutting the square is very important, and that's your first step and probably your main thing. Then the next human element is the seam. Is it a true scant 1/4 of an inch seam allowance? We're going to talk about that here in a few minutes, how to get those better seams. And then, of course, the way that you lay the ruler on there. Now, obviously, the way that you lay the ruler on there can affect the size, but most likely that is not the issue. It's going to come from the center square of the cutting and from the seams are the first two things that the human does, and so those should be the first two things that we check when something is not turning out the way that we want it to. All right, so we're going to go back to actually the tools that you use to cut the center square, because not all rulers are made equally. So there are a lot of different companies that make our quilting tools that we cut with our rotary cutter, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to buy from that company. There's only a couple of companies that actually make the true measurements the exact size that they should. Now actually the US government has a little box, like a little ring box, that you can open it up and it has the true inch in there. And so you should use those true inches in the manufacturing and in the tooling of making those rulers and marking those lines on those rulers. Now the companies that I like and the companies that I buy my tools from would be the OmniGrid company, who actually makes a lot of things for the US government, and the Creative Grid company. Creative Grid is one that you can probably find in almost any store and is very easily to do. Now the other thing is that when you buy these different rulers to actually cut your squares and your strips, then you also need to know how to use them. Now I did almost 2 years ago, I did come out with the Grande ruler because it has this nice 9-inch corner square on it, and it also has the lines on it so that you can cut your squares and your strips and you know that you're cutting them accurately. And we're going to go in and use the Grande to cut our squares and strips here in just a few minutes. And then also on the mini square and a square ruler, it has a 4-inch square on the corner, and we're going to go in and use that in a few minutes also. So this one down here is a Creative Grid ruler, and it is probably one of the most common rulers that you can get. You can get them in a 6-inch or a 6.5. Now the width of being 6.5, I want you to notice how on this one it's the normal one that people need and purchase, but I want you to notice how let me bring it back this way. I want you to notice how it has an extra, I'm trying to get that glare off. It has an extra 1/2 inch here on the end of the ruler and an extra 1/2 inch here. So if I pick this up to cut squares and strips with, and I don't pay attention to which end of the ruler I'm using, it's going to be, I'm going to have to remember there's an extra 1/2 inch on it here and here. Now I actually had, sometimes when people are having difficulty and I've helped them with email back and forth, I'm like, okay, we've gone through the different steps. The next thing to do is, if possible, send me your fabric pieces. And I got some fabric pieces in the mail just this week. And when I went through checking everything, the first thing I did was check her center squares, and then I checked them next to the pattern with the correct sizing that we were supposed to have. And the center squares were too big. And they were easy squares. One of them was an easy square to cut, like a 4-inch square. And I'm like, how do you miscut a 4-inch square? And so then I'm thinking, I bet she's got one of these rulers. I bet she's got a ruler with a 1/2 inch on each end. And when she got ready to go in and cut, she forgot which end she had. Now, I love this ruler when I need to cut a 6.5 inch piece for a border or something like that. But this ruler is not a ruler that stays on my tabletop that I'm going to pick up and use just every time I need to cut or measure something, because I have to remember it has this on here. And I don't want to cut my fabric wrong and sew it wrong, and then all of a sudden I realized I've got the wrong one. So having these extra 1/2 inch markings on them are great when you need them, but it's not great for where your average everyday stuff that you're doing. So I don't keep it up here on my table. I keep it down below so that when I get it, I know it's a reminder to myself that one is maybe not the one that you want to use at this time. Now also, when you come in here to cut your fabrics, sometimes fabrics are hard to see because they're dark, or the print that is on them, you know, can play with you, and you can miscut your tools. I mean, miscut your fabric with your tools. So maybe it would help if you cut from the back side so that you can see a little bit better. Now, obviously, if I was going to cut, and I'm going to use the grande, and if you're cutting squares, you can do multiple layers. But if this is going to be a border or a sashing, you don't want to do multiple layers. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to line up the edge of my fold with my fabric, and I'm going to do a cleanup cut. Just like that. Also, it's so important to have a rotary cutter that cuts nice. You can really mess up your squares and just jag them up and dog ear them and stuff if you don't have a nice rotary cutter. So make sure you change that blade often. Okay, so let's say that I need a 3-inch square. That means I need a 3-inch strip. So here is a grid line up here at the top. Here's grid lines down here at the bottom. And then here is actually the width of my strip, my 3-inch, hand flat, make my cut. Okay, so now I'm ready to go in here and cut my squares. So if I'm going to cut a 3-inch, then of course you can come in here and do a cleanup cut and then turn it around. But I don't always want to move my fabric around. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to give myself a little extra for my cleanup cut. So here's my 3 inches from here to here, and I can see how it's lining up on all of them. So there's my first cut. Then I can just gently turn it. And when I'm cutting like this, I'm checking all 4 sides. I'm checking where I've already made a cut, where I've already made a cut. It's down in that corner good. It's coming over here. This is my grande multi-purpose ruler, and it will cut all the way up to a 9-inch. And this is one of the reasons why I made it, is so that you can get nice accurate cuts in the way that you need them. So there's my 3-inch. And then I don't have to move that. I can come in here. This is already a nice cleanup cut. Come in here and cut and have my 3-inch. Now also when you're cutting, you need to pay attention, because even with your lines on your ruler. So let me grab my pen. Now the lines on the rulers, they are a thickness. There is a width to that line. So when you're cutting, are you cutting on the inside edge of that line? Or are you cutting on the outside edge of that line? Or are you cutting right on the line? Now, obviously, right on the line is what you should try to do, but depending on the ruler that you have, the thickness of that line is, can add a 32nd or a 16th or whatever to the size of your square. Now, if your pieces are always small, so if your pieces are always small, cut on the, so if I wanted a 2-inch here, cut on the outside edge of your 2-inch, and your square will be a little bit larger, which will help increase the size because your work is always small. So you need to learn your PPMs. PPMs. And every person has them, and every sewing machine has them. And a PPM is a personal, private measurement. You have a certain way of doing everything. You either cut on the outside of the line or the inside of the line. Your sewing machine, the way that it's manufactured, it has a certain way of doing things. And I have multiple Berninas, but each one sews just a thread different in the way that it was tooled and manufactured. So you need to learn your PPMs of how you just commonly do stuff, and you need to learn your machine's PPMs. So when you go in and you start the process of cutting your squares and sewing your squares, you need to learn how you sew. Where is it that you normally have a complication or have to think about doing it more accurately? I know that when I make my basic squares that I do a great job on those. But when I start putting multiple pieces together to get little sections that then go in a block, that is where I sew larger. My seams seem to get a little bit larger when I'm connecting units that are already sewn together. So since I know that's my PPM, I have to pay careful attention to that. And it could make my 12.5-inch cut square not a 12.5. It can make it a 12 3/8 or a 12 1/4. The more seams you have in a block, the more fabric can be eaten up in your seams, and it will draw that block up so that it is smaller. So if your block is always just a little bit small, it's somewhere in those seams, whether it's a seam for your basic square or a seam when you start sewing your pieces together, or when you start sewing your units or your sections together. So sit down and make a block and just kind of make it normal, but think about it, make it normal in the way that you would normally sew it so that you can learn your PPMs. Then you know where you need to pay more careful attention to. Is it in the cutting of the squares? Is it in the sewing of the basic square seam? Or is it in the sections when you put them together? Because if your pieces are too big or too small, it has to be where the human is working. It has to be either in the cutting or the sewing. Now, of course, like I said, you need to lay the ruler on there properly to make the right cut. But 9 times out of 10, that's not the problem. The problem is not in the way that you're placing the ruler on there. It's either in the cutting of that square or the cutting of that seam. So now that we've talked about the cutting of our squares and about the width of our lines, are we cutting on the inside? Are we cutting on the outside? So when I look at this square that I cut, and I put it back in here and I look at it, did I cut it on the outside edge? Did I cut it right on, or did I cut it on the inside? And this one is right on. I cut it right on the 4-inch. Now the next thing, and lots of times I'll tell people, take a picture of your block, take a picture of your basic square, and you can text it to me. And that text number is 817-713-2879. Now the quilting hotline or a Facebook message is really the quilting hotline is the best place for you to send me a message about your quilting. If you have a question about where do I find something on a website, or a question about my order or whatever, you really need to send that in an email so that that won't get lost and that we can get to it faster. That's what Steve watches and handles, are those emails and those technical questions. If he gets a quilt question on there, he's going to have to send it over to me. If I get a technical question on the hotline number, then I have to send it over to him. And we don't want things to get lost. We want to be able to help you quickly and fast. Also, on the Facebook stuff or the Messenger stuff, some of that stuff evaporates and goes away. On those threads and on the text thread, we don't. Yeah, sometimes in 24 hours those messages go away. And that's not something that I stay on and check constantly. I usually check things of a morning and check things at night, but you know, those things can get lost. So we want to be able, we don't want things to get lost. We want to help you quickly and get to things accurately and fast. So please, technical questions, emails, quilt help, you can do on the text line. And really, I really don't want any Facebook messages. They're hard to find. They're hard to keep track. That one is difficult to do. Yeah, there's a lot of back and forth, and they evaporate, and sometimes you can't find where it came from. They come from like 3 or 4 different places and all of that. So anyway, okay, so I tell you to flip your work over on the back and put some rulers on them so that I can tell. So what I'm looking for in that photo that you're going to send me is I'm looking for the size of that square. This was, I'm looking for the size of the square, and then I'm going to look at the seam. Now, those of you that are Premium Club members, you need to go back into the beginner section of the Premium website, and you need to go back in and watch those videos and watch those videos and watch those videos. There's nothing wrong with going back and watching them. That's how you get things so that you ooze it, so that it's a part of you. And there's a great one in there on the seam allowances. So let's just kind of look at here on the paper quickly for a seam allowance. Okay, if that's the seam and that's the edge of the fabric, this is your seam allowance. And people say, so 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Well, as long as that seam, so let's look at this seam, as long as this seam is folded like this, and you have a perfect 1/4 of an inch, then you're great. But this little quilt is not going to come together if you don't press that seam open. And when you press that seam open, even if this was a perfect 1/4, your seam, your work is now going to be too small, because you have to have a couple of threads of fabric in that turn of cloth. And the thicker your fabric, the more couple of threads it's going to take. So that's why people, professionals, teach to sew a scant. So that means just a little bit smaller. So that means just the thickness of a line. So if this is the edge of your fabric and this is your perfect 1/4, then you should actually be sewing just snug up to that line. So when I put my ruler on here, and this is a little OmniGrid 1x12 or 1x6, I have them all in all my different sewing stations because I can quickly check a seam, check a square. They are my little helpers. So when I go in here and put my ruler on, I'm actually going to put it on the edge of my fabric. So my 1/4 of an inch line is right on the edge of the fabric. And then I'm looking where the stitch is at. And the stitch should not be on the outside, and it should not be right on. It should be right on the inside edge of that line. And that's a scant. Now, a lot of times I see people even sewing on this side of the 1/4 of an inch. And that's what we would call a full 1/4 of an inch. You're sewing right on the outside edge of a line. And I see that a lot in work. And that, you know, they think they're sewing a 1/4, but they're sewing on the outside edge of the line. So it's actually a full 1/4 when they need to sew on the inside edge of that seam line, which makes it a scant. So when you're working with your options and your sizing is not correct, you need to go back and check your PPMs, your personal private measurements. So go in and check that center square. And if you find out that your stuff is always a little small, just cut it just a thread larger. Just cut it a thread larger and check your tools. Play with your sewing machine, see if you can move a needle, see if you can use a different foot, see what can help you so that you can sew a better scant seam allowance.
I think I'm shrinking my blocks with my ironing and starching.
Yes, and that's going to be the next thing that we're going to talk about, is that when you go in and press, so you have the cutting, and you have the sewing, and you have the pressing, and you have the way that the ruler lays on there. Now, if you know that when I teach, I don't, when my fabric is all in one piece, let's say before you cut it, when it's all in one piece before you cut it, then if you need to use any steam or starch, you can do so. But because then you're going to go cut it, and you're going to cut it accurately with your tools. Once your sewing is done, once you've started doing your cutting and your sewing, I don't use any steam. I don't use any starch. I've seen more work messed up at the iron than I ever have at the sewing machine or the cutting table. Because when you add, think about your cotton fibers. And if you're in the Premium Club, we talk about all of this in depth in that beginner section. Go in and watch those over and over again. So when the cotton, we all know that a cotton clothing can shrink. We're using 100% cotton in our quilting. And they have made the fabrics in the production part better so that they don't shrink as much. And the more quality of your fabric, the better luck you're going to have. And the fabric doesn't, the fabric doesn't shrink. Let me think about this for a minute. I want to tell you right. The fabric doesn't shrink in the length of that fabric on the bolt. The fabric shrinks on the fibers that are selvage to selvage. The fabric shrinks selvage to selvage. So if you're working with a pre-cut, let's say a 2.5 inch jelly roll or something like that, it's cut 2.5, it's not going to shrink in the width of that 2.5. It's going to shrink in that selvage to selvage in the length of that 44 to 45 width is where it's going to shrink. So yes, when you press, so those fibers come together, those cotton fibers are woven together into your gray goods, and then they're printed, and then they're sent to you. And the quality of the fabric will determine too how much it shrinks or changes. But those cotton fibers, when they start feeling, when you watch my pressing videos in that beginner section also, you even know that when if your fabric is like this, and you're putting the iron, we put the iron on the top to like set it, to heat it up. And then when your iron comes over to the side of that seam, you can see as those fibers heat up, you can see it kind of wilt and fall over. And that's because you're actually changing the structure of that. So pressing is really important, and your steam and your starch is really important. So be aware of that when you're using it. Okay, so any more questions? We're going to go into cutting. So that's quite a lengthy information on all of that, but hopefully that will help you. If you have any questions, go ahead and text them in. Depending on the form, whether you're doing it on Facebook or YouTube or on the text line, some of that we can see right now, and some we have to look at later. Okay, so when your work is done and it's as accurate as possible. Now, sometimes when you're flying geese, if you're flying geese and your half square triangles are crooked, or if they're different sizes, then it can be because your square is not cut square. It's maybe 4 inches on one side, but a full 4 1/4 on the other side. And it could be that when you check your seams, you've got some that are wide, some that are skinny, some that are crooked. So when these don't turn out to be the same size, or you've got 4 different sizes of half square triangles, it's probably coming from those seams. They're not consistent. You got 4 seams and you got 4 different sizes. So really, really, really work on your seams. All right. So when we trim, okay, so we talked about the grande, about how it can help you with your squares and your strips, and it can cut the really large units. And then on your mini, one of the things, I love the mini ruler, but I really, really use this 4-inch corner square. I really use that a lot to cut my blocks. And so I know I'm getting a nice accurate squares when I'm starting out. And then your original ruler, you can cut squares and strips, but it's really not made for that. Okay, so when you put your ruler in your block, in your basic square, see how this 90 needs to go right into that tip. So do you barely push it in there? And so see, you're on the outside edge of the 90. That's bringing it into the square. That means it's going to be a little bit small. Is it right smack on top of the seam? Or have you pushed it out to where it's on the inside of the 90, making it larger? So you can add, and subtract easily a 16th or an 1/8. If you did a 16th too big on all four corners, you could add an 1/8 of an inch to your block really easy. If you're in here like this, inside your square, then you're making it, 2 threads or a thread smaller on all four sides. So, that's going to make your block larger or smaller. So think about how you're putting it in there and where it's at. So that's your 1/4 of an inch, just like that. And of course, that's what we need on all four sides. Now, in the August 1st video where we did the core of the system, we spent a lot of time going in depth on trimming your pieces, your option 1s, 3s, and 4s, which are the main units for the square. And then we went in and did the equivalent of that to the diamonds, which is option 7, 18, 19, 20. If you haven't watched that video, or if you've watched it under 10 times, then you are behind. You need to go back in and watch it, and watch it, and watch it, and watch it. Stop it. Do it. Think about it. You need to watch it, and you need to send me 10 questions on that, because that is the core of the system. It's the meat, it's the bread, the potatoes, the butter, the gravy, everything. That is where you need to go and watch and learn it. And you need to be dreaming it at night. It's going to help you get your square eyes, and it's going to make you a better piecer. You can be that piecer you've always dreamed about. You just have to apply yourself and learn these little tips and hints that we're telling you. Okay, so if you're going to trim right up to the tip, which is what you need for 2 sides of the flying geese and all 4 corners of your half square triangles, then we do what we call the 2-step. So you're stepping it over. It needs to be nice and sharp. So see how sharp that corner is? That fabric coming right into that corner? That's what you're doing here. You're putting that right in that corner so that you can get that nice sharp. You're looking to see if everything is balanced good and if your grid line is going through. And then you also need to look where you've already cut and look at your fabric and your lines to see if it looks neat. Now this one I need to adjust just a little bit. It's more important that the outside stays square. If your outside doesn't stay square, then these are going to be all jingle jangle. So go right up to the tip. And we're going to do that on all 4 sides if you want half square triangles. And remember, start with the best corner. You have 4 corners. They're all going to be a little different because you're human. So start with the best one. And keep it square the best you can on the outside. And then when you come in here to cut it through here, whoops, this one needs to be, we left the 1/4 of an inch on that one. So we need to come back in and trim it. Okay, now look at these corners. Look how there's no white on this corner. It's nice and sharp. It's not blunt. It's a sharp corner. And then I'm just using my lines on my ruler to cut right through those centers. So you're going to cut, and then you're going to cut. Now on flying geese or square into squares, you have to cut those centers exactly to get the size you want. But with half square triangles, since you're cutting into 4 different pieces, you can actually cut this center square a little bit larger. It's what we call an overcut. And then when you get to this step, you can come back in and you can trim it up perfect. And that's what I would love with my little mini, is I can come back in here. I can use my angle line on there, and I can come in here and trim these up perfect for what I need. So if I needed these to be 2 1/4, I can line up these two edges with my 2 1/4, keep my fabric seam line where it should be, and then come in here and trim them up. So if you're just having difficulty getting your half square triangles to be correct, I would say just go in and cut them just a little bit larger, and then you can come back in and trim them perfect. And one thing I love about this little corner square is it does 1/8 of an inch. So it'll give you that perfect measurement up to 1/8 of an inch for your half square triangles. And if they're not coming out the same size or neatly or whatever, once again, go back and just check your square and your seams and your pressing, and then of course the way that you are laying it on here. Now, I don't use any steamer starch in making of my basic square. I don't. I'm very cautious with my steam and my starch. Okay, now the next thing we're going to talk about is sizing. So do we have any questions before we move on?
Do you finger press?
I don't finger press. Sometimes I may, just every once in a while, but I don't like it. I don't recommend it, and I don't do it very often. In a basic square, if you've got something, you know, I mean, they really need to be good, just go to the iron. But like if you're working with flying geese or half square triangles and you've sewn two together, you're just not, you know, you're going to have to, because you have no heat, the only thing that you can do is apply pressure. And when you're applying that pressure, you're really affecting those fibers and what they're doing. So to me, you can really distort your stuff. It's probably the best answer is no, only in extreme emergency. And then you may be doing more harm than good in doing it. So another question before we move on to size?
Because I don't feel like I'm a good cutter. Well, I know I'm not a good cutter, so I go 1/4 of an inch larger each time. Should I stop doing that?
If you're making your basic squares, generally your basic squares have to be cut exactly true to size. If you're doing half square triangles, you can overcut. If you're doing flying geese, you can go back in and trim them up, but you can't do it all in one section. You have to measure from the nose of the goose to the outside to make sure that's proportioned perfectly, and go in here. You know, if you've made 30 of these and they were too big and you didn't realize till you got your flying geese cut, well, yeah, go back in and size them down. And I also think since you're just getting 2, not 4 out of them, that you can probably do it pretty good. But I really guess in answering that question correctly is that I would actually go back in, like I was talking about at the beginning of our video, and really look at your PPMs, look at your centers, look at your seams, you know, see if there's a way that you can improve on that with the knowledge and the information that I gave you today, and play around with it a little bit and really try that. Then you can go in and overcut. Now, you know that like when we're working on stars, and anytime you have a solid square or a solid rectangle and it's along the outside edge, we do teach overcutting on that, and I do think that's very important. So, you know, I guess there's a time and a place for doing that, and when I recommend and when I don't. In the basic square, general rule is I don't recommend overcutting, but it's solid square, solid rectangle, then yes. And even in the making of our log cabins, we're going to make our logs wider, so we're overcutting them so that we can go back in and each round square them up and make them perfect. So there's a place for that, but it's usually with what I call solid units of squares or rectangles. Okay, another question?
I think we're good.
Okay. All right, so now we're going to talk about sizing. People do not understand the vocabulary of the traditional quilt world. Okay. So, traditional quilt world has two words that they use. They use finished and they use unfinished. And then they also use the word sewn. And these can be very confusing to people. And that's where most people get confused. Okay, let's think about it like this, and everybody's brain is going to work a little bit differently, and there's probably 10 examples I can give on this, but I'm just going to give this one. When I go to the airport to get on an airplane and to fly somewhere, I'm arriving. And the signs up there at the top say departing and arriving. But that's not what the airport wants. The airport wants me to say, I am departing. I am departing on a plane. And so if I go to the arrivals, I'm going to be in the wrong place. I have to go to the departures so that I can get my gate and get on my plane because I am departing. So you can see how words that people use and the way that you think about those words can be very confusing. And that's what's happened in the quilt world. So there is an unfinished size and there is a finished size. Now where the problem comes in is here. If you look at this flying goose, you could say it is finished and you could say that it is sewn. But the size of this flying goose that I'm looking at is not a sewn and it is not a finished size. It is an unfinished size because it still has raw edges. So what the finished means and what the sewn means is right here. Everything, this is finished because there's no raw edges. As long as you have raw edges on that piece, it is an unfinished size. So when I'm looking at these blocks, it has a raw edge on it. So it is an unfinished size. It is not a sewn size, even though I'm finished with it and it's sewn, it is not a finished and a sewn size until it gets way over here with no seams in it.
That is way over there.
Sorry. I thought you could get it in the screen. So, see how this is sewn on all four sides? So it is a sewn size and it is smaller. But over here on my table with raw edges, it is a cut size. So, let's look at words that are the same. So do we have any questions on that, Steve?
No, I don't think. What is the name of the pattern of the red and green quilt over your left shoulder, Jody?
Okay, this one is called Grizzly Mountain. This quilt right here is called Grizzly Mountain, and it's in a pattern form. And we also have some kits for Grizzly Mountain. And Grizzly, it's not showing up on there.
Yes,
There we go. Steve didn't push a button. Okay, this one is called Grizzly Mountain, and we do have about 4 kits left for it in this color combo. So if you're interested in that color combination, you need to get in there and order it right away, because in 2 weeks we go to Houston and those 4 kits are going to be gone. So if you wanted in that color. And this one uses half square triangles and flying geese, just like we're using today. And it is sewn. It is finished. It is a sewn finished size because there's no raw edges anywhere in this quilt. It's got binding and everything on it. And that right there is where people get confused, even in working on everything, is working with the sewn and finished. Okay, I got an email this week from a lady doing flying geese. And she said, I need help in getting a size. She said, I need a sewn size that is 3.5 by 6.5. Well, immediately I know this is not a sewn size, because a sewn flying goose is what we call a perfect rectangle. So what that means is if this is 1 inch, then this is 2 inches, because you double it or you divide it in half. And this is a sewn size. If I double this size, that's a 7. So this automatically tells me that what she is looking for is a 3.5 by 6.5 cut. This would be a sewn 3 by 6. So I can tell by looking at this instantly that it's a cut size, not a sewn size. So when you go to the charts in the book on page 34, of course, is our flying geese. And at the very top of that very first column, it says, what is the sewn size you're looking for? So you'd have to come down here and find the 3 by 6. And then you move across, and at the top it says the cut center square. So it's going to tell you what size to cut your center square. And then the next column is going to tell you what size to cut the width of the strip that you're going to sew around it. So you find the size you're looking for and just drag your finger across horizontally to the center square, and then drag your finger across to the cut size of the width of that strip. So it says it's going to be, for those measurements, it says that it's going to be a 3 by 6 sewn, which means cut, it's going to be a 3.5 by a 6.5. Okay, so, and that's the way the charts work. You have to look at the top of the chart and see if it's asking for a cut or a sewn. Most of the time, it's going to ask you for a sewn size. So hopefully this talking about cut and sewn has helped you so that you can learn to read the charts to get the size that you want. Now remember, anytime you have questions, I want you to text them or to email them to us so that we can get you helped. Please don't feel like that just because I referred to some emails or some text messages that I got this week that I'm being negative or belittling someone for asking the question. I'm just trying to help you to get you more knowledge so that you can learn the vocabulary and help yourself. You may be needing the size of a flying goose when it's 2 a.m. in Texas because you're in France or Italy or South Africa or Australia, and it's going to be a while before I get back to you. I want you to be able to go and sit down at your sewing machine and start sewing right away. I'm more than happy to help you get that fish to eat. If I feed you a fish, then you're going to keep asking me for more fish. But if I teach you how to fish, then you're going to be able to get your own fish so that you can get going on your own.
How about a half square triangle that's not on the chart?
Okay,
I need a 4.5 inch unfinished, 4-inch finished.
Good. Okay, so let's talk about when something you need is not on the chart. So you can, like one lady was asking me for a flying goose that was not on the, was it a flying? Yes, she was asking me for a flying goose that was quite large. It was not on the chart. So you can go back to your option 3 page and go back to your magic math and work your magic math to get your size, no matter what size it is. Or if the size you want is somewhere else in the book, then you can cheat and go right to it. I told her, I said, go to all of these, what she was wanting was a star and a large flying goose. And I told her, go to page 69 where we have a little star pattern. And when you go to the end of the patterns, you have additional sizes. And don't forget to turn the page because you'll have you could have additional sizes. So I told her to go to the largest block, and I said the flying goose you want is right there. So sometimes you don't have to go all the way back and do the magic math. You can just jump in there to where something's already done and get started with it. So let's talk about half square triangles, option 4. So once again, go back. When the size you want is not on the chart, go back to your option 4 and you have a magic math problem. Now in the magic math, I think it asks for a cut. Yes, it says what is the cut size you're looking for. So you always have to pay attention. Are we asking for a sewn or a cut? So what was her cut size that she wanted?
4.5 unfinished, 4-inch finished.
Okay, so she wants a 4.5 cut. Okay, so that's a 4.5. 5. So your little magic math says take the cut size, multiply it times 1.414, and then when you get your answer, you're going to add.
What's this cut size? 4.5?
And then you're going to add a half an inch or a 0.50. And that's going to give you your center square.
6.86.
6.86. And then you add your 0.50.
That's included with the
Okay,
50.
you're 6.86. Okay. All right, so that's going to be your center square. And then, of course, you know your strips because at the very beginning of option 1, when you're first getting started, it has your magic math right here that tells you how to figure your strip sizes. So I'm going to, in my mind, just bump that up to 7 inches to figure my strip size. You divide it by 2 and then add 1/4 of an inch unless this is larger than 5, and then you're going to add a half an inch. And that's your strip size.
Like the 6.86, that's 6.87 is 7/8.
Yeah, so the 0.87 is your 7/8. And so you would just bump it up and do it. Most likely that little add is not going to affect anything. And if you bump it up, then you can always go back and trim it down just a little bit. Now, somewhere, I'm not prepared with the page number, but somewhere in here where it has a bunch of quick tips, it's going to give you this fraction chart. I don't know if I can find it in here real quick, but it's good. Your fraction chart is in here, and I talk about putting little sticky notes on your edges of your pages that has like little hidden gems in there. I'll have to find it for you guys. I don't know where it's at, but there is a chart in here that has your fractions on it. Okay. All right. Do we have any more questions? We'll have a little bit of newsletter information.
We were talking about, let's talk about these 2 quilts.
Okay.
Where they're located and the names of them.
Okay.
Like in a book or whatever.
Okay.
The 2 behind you.
All right. This one is called Grizzly Mountain. It's an individual pattern, Grizzly Mountain. It's an individual pattern that you can order on the website. It's not in any of the books. It's the cover quilt for the 3rd novel, Threads of Courage. And we have about 4 kits left in this one. And so if you're interested in it, you need to get it within the next 2 weeks. The last week of October, we go to Houston. They'll be loaded and taken to the booth. And I guarantee you all 4 of those are going to be gone at Houston. We have a brand new one that we've used our new Eagle fabric in. And it is on the website. Steve, it might be on the cutting table over there. I'll talk for a minute if you can go see it.
Okay.
If it's right there on top where that red bag is. So we have a new one where we've used the blue Eagle vine fabric, and that one is also in a kit on the website, and we call that one Eagle Mountain instead of Grizzly Mountain. It's Eagle Mountain because we've used this beautiful blue eagle.
It's not here.
It should be right there on the top of the suitcase or in the suitcase.
Okay.
Should be one of the top 3 quilts. See it? Okay, while he's looking for that one, let's talk about this one. Did you find it?
No.
Okay, so this one here is Thomas Log Cabin. You can get it in an individual pattern called Thomas's Log Cabin. I'm sorry?
What color am I looking for?
Blue Eagle,
Blue Eagle.
the big Blue Eagle Mountain. It should be like the top 3 quilts. No? Okay, this one is called Thomas's Log Cabin. It's an individual pattern on the website. It's also in the Mailing Women book if you have the Mailing Women book. This one is in the process of being kitted right now. It's will be on the website this week, and I love these half square triangles with the 4 log cabins coming together in there.
Why don't you go find it?
And we use the Blue Eagle. So what are you going to tell them while I walk over there and find it?
I'm going to tell a joke. No, I'm not.
Okay, hang on just a minute. I'll be right back.
There's a break in the action here at the Square in the Square studio. You find it?
No, you're right.
It's
Well, maybe
lost.
he was right. It's not there. How about that? Anyway, if you go back and watch couple of our videos that we've done this fall, the Eagle Mountain quilt, which is made off the Grizzly Mountain one, is a new one that we showed sometime in the last month. So just go back and watch this fall on some of those webinars because it's been hanging here behind me for a long time. And it also will be one of the classes in our Quilt Club week that we're doing. So I had it up here yesterday or the day before when we were filming, and now I don't know. We've got quilts everywhere because we're getting ready for Houston and we've been doing a lot of filming, so I'm not sure where it's at. Anyway, so any other questions, Steve, that have come in?
The title of the book that you're talking about?
The Melee Women book.
Melee Women.
It's called the Melee Women book.
And how much is it? It's $34.95.
It's $34.95, so $35, and it has 34 quilts in it, and they're awesome quilts. I know many of you watching have the book, and if you want to put on there that it's got awesome quilts in it, then people enjoy getting another quilter's opinion about that. Okay, now we will, if you have any questions, get them in because we're about ready to close up here. Next Sunday we will have a video teaching. Should be at our regular time of 3 o'clock, but then the next Sunday we won't, and the next Sunday we won't. So that last Sunday of October and the first Sunday of November we will not because of the Houston Festival.
You may be doing some live Houston stuff.
We'll try to do
Just
some live
depends
Houston stuff. Depends on everything. Okay. If you're coming to Houston and you want to, we're going to be in the on the main aisle, row 1100. Also, for Square and Square members, we're going to have a dinner either Thursday night or Friday night. We've been trying to find a venue, and it's been very difficult. So we probably can't have more than 30 people. But if you want to come, Premium Club members, or if you're not a Premium Club member and you're going to be at Houston, just email us so that we can get you on the list. If you want to, we're going to have a Premium Club booth there, and so if you're not Premium Club, come by and look at the booth. It'll be right there with our regular booth, and we'll have Premium Club members in the booth. And if you are Premium Club and you want to help work the booth for a little while, we'd love to have you there. And we'll have demos in our booth, and we've got 4 booths, so big booths with all of our products and quilts. We've got new quilts coming in all the time that are being made with the fabric, and this one just came yesterday, and this one just came yesterday with the Americana pattern in it. So, and our new fabric, we have our Eagles are our newest one that we've had a few weeks now. We have another one that is supposed to be having a dock date either Friday a couple of days ago or Monday coming up. And so it usually takes about 2 weeks or 3 weeks after that. Things are kind of slow for us to get it. We'd hoped we'd had some of that fabric for Houston, but we've got some pieces of it we'll be showing. And when we come home from Houston, we'll be shipping any of that fabric and have our promotion on it. Yes?
When can I sign up for Quilt Club Week?
You can sign up. There's going to be another thing. You can go to the website right now and you can sign up for Quilt Club Week. You can start watching the Quilt Club Week that we had for 2020, and then you'll be ready to go when our Quilt Club Week of December 1 through 4 shows up right after Thanksgiving. Will be Quilt Club Week 2021, and we've got a lot of fun, exciting things planned and some surprises we're going to tell you about as we get a little further.
Or premium.
If you're Premium Club, you don't have to do anything. Your Quilt Club Week 2020 is in there. Go and watch it, and you'll be ready to go for Quilt Club Week 2021. So the best value is always to go in and join Premium Club, because then you get everything. So
That's what I was going to say. And on the website at the very top is where you can sign up for it.
So go to the website, up at the very top, you'll see Quilt Club Week or Premium Club. Click on it. There'll be some more information. There'll be another little video there. And of course, if you have any questions, you can email. But Quilt Club, Premium Club has so much information in it. I mean, there's hundreds of hours. We've been doing it for multiple years, and we just keep adding more content. And last year with, COVID, we did more, and this year we've been home, and so we've done more. And the students are really learning a lot. Their work is progressing. We have a special Facebook page for Premium Club members and a special Facebook page for Quilt Club Week. And you can see the development of the students from their colors, from choosing their colors to their actual work, and the excitement that you can just see and feel in their text and as they send their pictures on. And it's just, I'm really excited with the Facebook group for Premium Club. They're all very encouraging and very productive. It's fun to be able to see their work. And with Premium Club, students are sticking with the square in a square and learning it and getting their square eyes and learning how to adapt all of their quilting to it. The science of patchwork that we teach works for any quilt. The overcutting, about how to perfect your work, and then the square in a square system is just phenomenal in the triangle units that you get. So I really can take used to I would go somewhere, teach 6 hours, and I'm gone. And here you can just really take a student and just keep teaching them and adding more and more and more and more. We get wonderful emails where people say, I thought I was a pretty good seamstress. I've been quilting 30 years, but wow, I've learned more in the last 6 months with Premium Club than I have in the whole 30 years I've been sewing. So we love to hear that and get those emails, and it encourages me to keep going and to keep teaching. And it's exciting and fun for us. And I Steve and I, you guys tell us that we're a great team, and I think we are a great team. Steve really cares about you guys and your technology, learning and providing things and doing it as easily as we can, because we know, a lot of you guys aren't techie people at all, and so we need to make it as easy as possible. And so he works on that, and he's very hands-on. If you send him an email and you need help with your technology of how to work something, he's very good. He'll even make a little video for you and send it to you. So some of you have gotten
I'm not in the video though.
No, Steve is not.
Just
in the
my
video.
voice.
Just his voice.
The mystery man.
The mystery man. Have we had some? If you come to Houston or watch some of the videos for Houston, you might see him. Sometimes before Quilt Club Week, we'll do a video to help teach people how to navigate and move along through the website for Premium Club or Quilt Club Week or whatever. So some other questions have come in?
I don't think so. We did have someone earlier say they do want you to do some live stuff or show your booth or...
Yeah, I always
Houston.
show my booth. I'll show my booth at Houston before it opens so that we can get in and we'll talk about... All the quilts will be up, and of course the kits, and I usually go through and show you the quilts and talk about the quilts, and kind of like, like if we were at a guild show or whatever, we would show the quilts and talk about them and all that, and tell you what books or patterns, fabric, kits, any of that kind of stuff to go through. We really have a lot of quilts that we'll be having in the booth. Also, we'll have some quilts for sale, so we'll do a little video on those. I think it was last spring, early summer, we showed a few quilts on our live webinars and sold some.
Will you be at Road?
Will I be at Road? No. In fact, I thought I was going to be at Paducah, and I'm not positive that I'm going to be at Paducah. Right now, if I had to say, I'm going to say no. So it could be that Houston is the only show that we go to. A couple of years ago when we started slowing down and doing more online and more in the club, we can just do so much more in this venue like this than we can being on the road. I know it's exciting and fun to do that. I've done it for 30 years. I've got a little wear and tear on me, and because of all of that. But I really love teaching, and I think I can do more and show you more and take you farther down the road on that. So I think in saying that, if you want a live presentation or to see this stuff live, I think Houston is probably going to be our only avenue for that. Houston is about 5 hours from us, so we don't have to spend 2 or 3 days on the road. Actually, through the last couple years, we had 2 big fifth wheel toy haulers that we used. We've sold both of those. We've sold the big pickup that pulls them. I had 2 trailers. We've sold those. So there's not a lot of on the road stuff that we have planned or are doing. So make plans to come to Houston and join our premium club and quilt club week. So some other questions?
I don't believe so.
Okay, remember our maybe just a little bit of housekeeping and newsletter info. Our text line number 817-713-2879. That's for quilting help. If you need tech help, send that in an email, steve@squareandasquare.com. Our website is squareandasquare.com. All of our books, rulers, tools, fabric, kits, everything is on there. We'll be at Houston the last week of October. Our booth is in the 1100 aisle right as it connects to the main aisle. We'll have 4 booths there with product and demos, and then across we'll have 2 booths that are Premium Club quilts and information about that and Quilt Club Week. And then we have our new flag. Let me just show this one. So our Eagle Vine fabric has been here for a couple of weeks. This one is our Tone on Tones. It's in 5 colors. You have your Freedom Red, Old Glory Blue, our Dirt, and then it also comes in a green and a black. And those are 5. And then we're getting, if you've noticed on our website, we don't have some of our Tattered and Torn because it's on the same shipment. And we'll have it. We'll have our Dirt back again. I have a little bit of the tan, but not a lot of it. So you guys eat that stuff right up. And then, what's the other one besides the flag and the Tattered and Torns? There's another one. What is it?
You mean color?
No, isn't there another design besides the flag and the tattered? Oh, the eagle with the flag in his feet. Do you want to go over there and grab that piece of fabric? The eagle with the flag in his feet.
Oh, okay.
It's on a bolt. You can just grab one. This eagle has the flag in its feet. It's eagle with the flag like you see in a lot of federal things. And it has stars that go over to the left. And it comes in 3 colors. It comes in the Dirt, comes in the Freedom Red, and in the Old Glory Blue.
There's the red.
Yeah, and this is another one that's in
You want
our
me to get the
shipment.
blue?
You want to put the camera down here at the bottom, hon. Details so they can see it. So there you can see this one. This one's on the ship. And sometime after we get home from Houston.
I'm going to put it down now.
Okay, so these are the 3, plus it comes in green and black, and then this one will come in the blue and the red. And this one is called Eagle Flag. So we have Eagle Vine, Eagle Flag, and the flag Tone on Tones.
Big jug of this one.
And there's the blue. And then here it is in the Dirt. So these are ones that we'll have in just a couple of weeks. Make sure you're on our email list so that you can get information about our promotion and our sale. You know that when we have get our fabric, that's when we do our promotion, and you get it at the sale price, and even can get some free shipping. So make sure you're signed up on our email list. Just go to our website, and you'll also get notifications about our webinars like this that we do. If you're also signed up with the email, you can go back in and watch all of our webinars from January till now for this year of 2021. So, anything I forgot, Mr.
I think
Steve?
we're good.
Any last minute questions? So, if any of you have watched the weather lately, you know that there's two big superstorms that are coming in to our part of the world today, Sunday and Monday, and then also Wednesday.
I think
So-
it's supposed to affect everywhere.
Yeah, I think it's
The whole
hitting
U.S.
multiple states as
For
it's
several
coming in.
days.
So we did our webinar a little bit earlier today because of that storm. Supposed to be hitting about 3 o'clock, so we didn't want to do our webinar at 3 o'clock and have any complications with weather. Also, every once in a while, if it sounds like you're on a ship and you hear a little bit of creaking, it's one of our big warehouse doors, and you can tell the wind is starting to pick up and blow. So just a little bit of fun information about some stuff that's happening here today.
Yep.
Our fabric comes in on those warehouse doors, and so they're really, really big ones. All right, I guess that's it. We'll see you next Sunday. Don't forget our Love of Country is going on Mondays, and you guys, your quilts that I'm seeing on the Facebook page of Love of Country are just gorgeous. And remember, the last Sunday of October and the first Sunday of November, we will not have a live webinar, but watch for our live classes while we're at Houston. We'll show you. I'll even show you other stuff at the show besides just our booth.
We've had someone from Spain and Italy and Germany, I believe, mention that they're premium members
Great.
from afar.
Yes, premium
And I
members
know we
from
have
afar.
Australia and South
Australia,
Africa,
we have South Africa,
New Zealand,
New Zealand,
so UK.
UK, Norway. So we have people from all over the earth. And remember too, if you don't have any of the books and rulers and stuff, when you sign up for Premium Club, you have at registration, you have an opportunity to get books and rulers at a discount. So make sure if you're going to sign up that you know, if you have any questions, email us the questions about the books and rulers and get your stuff, I think it's a 2-week time period, right? That you get a discount on your products. That's a pretty good one. And also, we don't talk a lot about the lifetime membership, but we have a great lifetime membership so that you can sign up once for a Premium Club and have it always. And it has a pretty good deep discount for products too, for books and rulers on the lifetime one.
And we're adding,
Okay, so any more questions, or have I
think
left
we're good.
anything, Steve?
I think we're good.
All right, so it was good to be with you today. Stay safe, and we'll see you soon down that patchwork trail. Bye.